on the Wado Radio Show.
All right, man. Of course, it's DJ Wado. It's the Wado Radio Show. It's more than music. It's ministry. I'm not sure how many times we've had this brother on in some form. I know I did video interviews before. I think I've had him on the podcast before, too. I don't know. But he's a friend of the show, man. TJ Pompeo. What's up, brother?
What up, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing really well. Doing really well, man. Excited to be talking to you today, my man.
Likewise, bro. Likewise. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I think before we get into the new music, I think some people were a little surprised to hear you now becoming an independent artist and no longer being a part of the Mixed Bag Entertainment, man. So just, I mean, what happened there, man?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a very delicate situation, so there's certain things that I'm not, legally entitled to say, but more or less it was just, there's a transition going on behind the scenes with both of us, honestly. Mixed Bag was going through a transition themselves, and then I'm going through a transition myself as well, just artistically kind of exploring more different things, and with their transition, it was one of those things where, Truth was very aware of the fact that their transition wasn't going to be necessarily like a quick, transition. It wasn't going to be a 2-week thing. It was, it was going to be extensive. It might have been a few months, or it could be up to a year. Like we didn't really know. And so it was more or less he kind of just didn't want to feel like he was holding me hostage. And so he gave me the option to leave and get out of my contract. And I was grateful for that opportunity because it was one of those situations where I think we all could kind of feel the tension that was starting to be created because of the transition and because of the waiting and whatnot. So I think that was just a good move on both parts for them to just realize that the transition was going to take a little longer than we hoped for, or that we expected, and then he extended that opportunity to me when he didn't have to. I was obviously under a contractual obligation, but he extended that to me, and I was thankful for that. So took that opportunity and just learned a lot, man. I learned a lot in the process of being with the label, traveling with him and stuff. Of course, it was a great opportunity to just learn the ropes of the industry and how to navigate through all sorts of different situations and scenarios while you're on the road and while you're working with music and whatnot, in studio atmospheres and all that jazz. And it was just it was a good experience overall. I think what I learned about myself as well in that process is that I'm not honestly cut for a label at this point in my career. At this moment, I've always been very, very independent, and I didn't even realize the extent of my independency until I signed, until I delegated some of those responsibilities to other people.
Wow.
And it was just really hard for me. It was really hard for me to let them do anything for me because I've always just done everything myself. I've always taken care of everything myself. Even in my personal life, I'm like that as well. So it was just one of those things I discovered throughout the process of being with the label that I'm like, maybe down the road, if the situation was right, maybe I'd sign with somebody else. But it's just not one of those things that it's not up my alley at this point in time.
Wow. I mean, one of the things, bro, that I became aware of throughout, this whole process with Mixed Bag is how much you were doing behind the scenes. So it's like you weren't just an artist. Obviously, you mentioned you're traveling on the road, you're in the studio, you're recording the music, a lot of it, mixing, mastering, songwriting, that type of thing. And so even aside from just like, I guess, the business side and, finding yourself personally, I'm sure there was still an attachment there that even made this a bit of a challenge.
Absolutely. I mean, Truth, that's my dude. I love him to death. And he became a mentor to me, a big bro, and he was always kept it straight with me, always let me know when he felt like I was, slipping up, or always encouraged me when he felt like I was doing something right. And I'm grateful for that, man. It's one of those friendships that it's like, we don't live in the same city. We don't see each other very frequently, but when we do, there's not going to be no love lost, no bad blood. Not at all. And I fully intend to, next time I see him in person, like we could sit down, we could chop it up, have a nice long conversation, talk about life, talk about music, talk about faith, talk about the industry, talk about whatever, whatever we want to talk about. And it'll be like nothing really changed, honestly. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm intending,
Yeah. Yeah. That's good, man. So you're saying that's what you're hoping for, man. You think he might feel a way about you going indie?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think because it was a situation where he extended the opportunity to me,
Yeah.
I think he was fully aware that him extending that opportunity was a wide open door for me to either stay or leave. And I don't know, it was just one of those things where when I talked it over with my management and my mentors and my family, my parents, people who are really, really close to me, and have kind of been riding with me through this journey of my artistry, it's like we all agreed, we thought about it, we prayed about it, we talked about it extensively, and we all agreed that it was probably just the best move for me to move on and separate myself from the label. I think, truth. I remember when I told them that, I was like, I'm going to take your offer to leave, and they were totally understanding. They're like, yeah, we get it, man, we totally understand. No hard feelings. I was like, cool, man, that's what's up. I really appreciate that. So
that's good.
And then, after that, it's just been the process of kind of ironing out the, legal side of it and the business details in terms of, leaving and whatnot.
Yep. So here we are. You're about to release this EP, or it's out. We're doing the interview before it comes out, so when you guys hear the interview, it'll be out.
That's right. Pompeo. Been out probably for a few days now.
But the album is called Pompeo, man. And so I mean, I'm assuming, man, this is you just bearing your heart, man, since it has your last name, huh?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. To a certain degree, absolutely. There's a lot of transparency within this whole project. I'll give you a little kind of taste of why I titled it that. I know that's always a question, like, where did that title even come from, and why did you spell it differently than your last name?
Yeah, I was wondering that.
So, right. So it's a bit of a history lesson in itself, honestly. The ancient city of Pompeiio, I'm very Italian. I have a lot of Italian roots in my life and my family, and very much so. My ancestors are straight off the boat from Italy. So there's an ancient city in Italy called Pompeiio, and it was this thriving port city, and then in 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted. And just completely buried the city in volcanic ash and debris and all sorts of just volcanic material, whatever. So all that's really left of that city now, it's known as the ruins of Pompeii. It's even like a World UNESCO Heritage Site, and people go there. And so I wanted to kind of take that whole story of that city of Pompeii and how it was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius, and I wanted to turn it into a metaphor. And obviously it just helps that my name is so similar to that city. And that it has, attaches to my Italian roots. But I wanted to take it and talk about all these different things in my life that are, in their own respect, they're volcanoes. And when they erupt, they attempt to create the ruins of Pompeo. They attempt to ruin me in all sorts of different ways. So that's why the album, touches on pride. That's the very first song. The whole first song is talking about my pride. And now that I'm experiencing some kind of success in the music industry, it's like, am I going to let my pride get to me? And really destroy me. And then the EP touches on lust. It touches on the power of the tongue and how I can let that ruin me and ruin other people. It talks about how people's opinion of me can also, get to me at times. Talks about a lot of different stuff, but all these different sorts of volcanoes in their own respect, that can erupt. And when they do, they've definitely had their share of trying to ruin me.
So what are some of these volcanoes, bro?
I mean, I don't want to get too specific, but there's particularly two of the songs in particular that I really connect with a lot are Bear Trap, which it's a song all about just the art of seduction, the power that skin has over a man because we are visual creatures. And the song was very much birthed out of personal experience with one of my ex-girlfriends, us just crossing physical boundaries that we shouldn't have crossed, and just the kind of the repercussions of that, the guilt and the shame and the emotions that kind of came from that were very heavy, and it was a lot to process through, and it was one of those things I'm like, I have to talk about this, I have to write a song about this, and I almost feel like it would be spitting in God's face to not talk about it, because he brought me through it. He brought me through the guilt and the shame and just the weight of it all that was kind of bearing on my shoulders afterwards. So that song is very close to me, and it was also even artistically a very challenging song because I produced the whole song myself, and it's in a very weird singing range for me, a great singing range, but it was different because it's more of a falsetto, and I don't really normally sing up there. So it was a really good challenge as well, and I feel like I did it pretty good. So I've gotten nothing but good feedback from the song, other than this, a few of the legalistic folk who don't like the idea of, such a sensual kind of song. But otherwise, it's been accepted really well, so I've been really grateful for that. Then the other song I really connect with is King Without a Queen. That one is very close to me as well because for those who don't really know, if you followed me at all over the past few years, you kind of have come to the conclusion that I am somewhat of a hopeless romantic. I always love talking about relationships or dating or doing songs that have to do with those. I love it. I love it. It's up my alley. I'm a sap. I'm not ashamed of it. I don't care. I love it. I love that kind of stuff. And so King Without a Queen is kind of like the heart cry of the single male, especially in the midst of November, which is prime time for cuffing season. So I'm feeling it heavy right now. And I just wanted to write that song when I did. So that song is very close to me because it's just, again, I think it's a very normal, natural desire to want companionship, to want, someone to share your life with, of the opposite sex. And I just, I wanted to write a song that obviously I very personally connect with, but I know that there's tons and tons and tons of other single men out there who are, whether they want to admit it or not, they are the same kind of person as me. They're hopeless romantic. They're total saps, and they want companionship. They want a woman. They want love. They desire that sort of thing. And the reason that it kind of connects with the album title is that it honestly, that's a very strong thing that really it eats at me a lot. Like, there's times where I find my identity in my relationship status, and I think that's a very real struggle for a lot of people. And I wanted to talk about it in a very, classy, grown, artistic kind of way.
So here's a question for you. Why don't you think you've gotten married yet?
I get that question like once a week from my parents.
Your parents want some grandkids, bro. That's what that question is.
They got like 4. They just want more. My mom is never satisfied with the amount of grandkids. She'll go to these in New York grandkids. But, it's an interesting question. I obviously processed through it myself quite a bit. I think, in all honesty, man, as much as I say that I want companionship and I'm I want that, I'm ready to date, I honestly, practically speaking, maybe emotionally, spiritually, I'm in that place where I'm ready, but practically and like just life-wise, I'm really not. Like, I'm stupid busy all the time. And it's just one of those things where I understand that once the time comes that I do meet someone special and I'm ready to take that step, I totally expect that my priorities will completely shift for her. But at this point in time, it's like I'm so focused on career, on business, on music, that it's just, I almost feel like it wouldn't be fair to bring a woman on board right now because I can't give her the attention, the time that she needs and that she deserves and I would want to give her because my brain is just in a totally other place. And I think I've been that way for the past year or so, and that's probably a good reason why I've never really even, over the past year or two, haven't even really been open to exploring any relationships with certain girls. And, furthermore, kind of the negative after effects of my previous relationships. The most recent one was like a year and a half ago. The most negative effects, they still kind of affect me. Honestly, there's a lot of doubt and insecurity that unfortunately came from the breakups and the way that it all kind of went down, and I had to wrestle with like my ability to lead, my ability to all that stuff, lead in a relationship, and it kind of made me question a lot of it, just the way that it went down, and obviously crossing those physical boundaries. I feel like it's a man's duty to safeguard those physical boundaries, and I didn't do that. So I had to be very real with myself, like, man, maybe I'm really not in a place to be in a relationship right now. And that was a year and a half ago, and ever since then, it was like, okay, well, let me kind of redirect my attention to more practical things like business and music and faith and getting kind of myself back in order here. And it's just been a process ever since. So I think that's probably a pretty solid reason why I have not gotten married yet. I think I'm open to obviously meeting someone at any point in time that God desires for that to happen. And I think I'll know, when that time comes. But at this point, I haven't really met someone that's really just like knocked me senseless to the point of like, I'm ready for those priorities to shift because of you, because meeting you was so impactful in my life and you just rocked my world as a woman. Like I absolutely have to just get to know you more and shift my priorities to make sure that you have time in my life, because I want you to have time in my life. So it just hasn't happened yet, and I'm okay with that.
Man, that's good, brother. That was an amazing answer. I feel like, man, like part of the reason why I wanted to even ask you that was I feel like for a lot of single people, they don't always understand the importance of preparing for marriage, like actually getting yourself ready for marriage. And I can tell you, as someone who's been married for 7 years, preparing myself for marriage was one of the uh, best decisions I made, just because there were certain things that could be a stumbling block once you get married, that if you're able to kind of prepare yourself in a way, it marriage is never easy, but it certainly makes it easier. You know, preparing your finances, preparing yourself spiritually, mentally, all these different things are imperative, bro. And I mean, listen, bro, I think it's a lot of maturity for you to say, hey, man, like right now, because I'm focusing so much on my career, it's not wise to bring somebody into this. Like, that's super mature, because a lot of people would try to do that, and then they may ruin two people's lives, their own and other person's, you know? So
exactly.
Good, bro.
Yeah, man, appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good stuff, my brother. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, do you also think your independence plays a role in this? Because I heard you know, before you was just like, man,
yeah,
I'm independent. Like, you think you're a bit of a loner, bro?
Yeah, I think that it definitely does. I think one issue I've always had in my life has been not necessarily trusting people with like things, you know, or taking care of things, or just like things that I would normally take care of myself. But I've always just been that way. I can't even describe it. I've always just taken care of things myself. And my parents kind of taught me how to be that way, and just, you know, if you want something done, go do it, and make sure it gets done. And I respect them for that. I love them for that. But I think there's a certain element of it that I took it and almost took it too far, to where it's like, I don't want anyone else to try and attempt something that I know I'm fully capable of myself. Bro, it's to the point where I've never even been to the barber to cut my hair. I've always cut my own hair. It's like,
really?
That's how independent
You've never been to a barber shop?
Never. I mean, I've been inside one to like wait for a friend or pick up my roommate who was getting a haircut, but I've never sat in a barber's chair and had a haircut before. Ever.
That's crazy.
Not once. I'm actually trying to do it this next week for the first time. I got, you know, my roommate, Jay Paul, he gets a haircut here by this guy in Atlanta, and I'm ready to just like take that step out of independency with my hair and let someone else cut it. But I'm saying, like, that's the extent of how independent I am. And that was even one of the things I realized, like, the whole mixed bag thing. I'm like, dang, I won't even let nobody touch my hair. Like, I do not need to be on a record label right now.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, man, where I think it does play a role in my, you know, in my singleness and my relationship status, where it's just something that, you know, God has to continue to work on, and I have to be humble enough to let him work on it, and just be open to change, because that's obviously very challenging. Change is great, but it's a hard transition to go through. And I think, you know, obviously a change in letting people handle things for you, or delegating certain things to people that you normally wouldn't do, or that you normally wouldn't delegate to. It's a challenge. But, you know, it's a growth process, and I'm pretty sure that whoever she is, she will hate it like crazy that I'm that way. But I'm hoping that she will extend grace to me in that time when, you know, in those moments where I know that she's fully capable of handling something or doing something for me, or something of that nature. But I don't want to delegate that to her because of my, you know, stubbornness and my independence. So I'm hoping that she'll be gracious enough with me in those situations. But I'm pretty confident that it'll definitely annoy her for a chunk of time, you know, until I kind of get past that transitional phase.
Man, that's good, bro. That's good, man. A lot of maturity in that, my brother. A lot of maturity in that, man. What do you want people to take away from this album? This EP, I should say. I
want people to take away, I think overall, the goal for me with writing this was obviously transparency. It's always been a very big part of my branding as a person, as an artist, as a man. But I think the bigger picture that I want people to really take away is that vulnerability is a beautiful thing. I think there's a certain aspect, especially in the culture of men in particular, where it's like we always just want to hide our emotions. We want to hide our feelings because it's a weakness to show emotion and show feeling, according to what we're taught in culture and society as a man. But I wanted this album to just talk about all sorts of stuff from a very deep emotional, feeling-based place of this is what I've experienced, and these are the emotions that are kind of come about because of that. And yes, I'm a man, but I also have feelings, and I have no issue expressing those feelings because vulnerability is a beautiful thing. Expressing weakness is a beautiful thing because, it's scriptural. In your weakness is where God is most made strong. And I wanted to really relate that to people. It's like there's no shame in men and women alike, but specifically men. Like there's no shame in expressing your weakness and your flaws and your troubles, your struggles. Be transparent, be vulnerable with people. I'm not saying you got to go up to some random Joe Blow on the corner and tell him how you stumbled with your girlfriend last week, but I'm saying be real with the people who you need to be real with, and don't be afraid to just be honest with people, because transparency is beautiful, vulnerability is beautiful, and expressing your weaknesses is a beautiful thing in my opinion. So that's what I kind of wanted to take this whole album and just talk about, and again in a very artistic way. I didn't want it to be the typical VeggieTales, hip hop Christian thing. It's like I wanted it to be a very real, raw album that came from probably one of the most transparent places I've ever come from.
That's good, man. Yo, how has as you've been going through these different, I guess, situations or these volcanoes, as you described them earlier, that kind of tried to knock you off of your path. How has your relationship with the Lord impacted that? And I ask you because there's so many people, right, that, man, we all go through crazy stuff, man. Like I got homies that have filed for bankruptcy, homies going through divorce, homies that have had the death of a child, like just major stuff, you know what I'm saying, in their life. Right. And so, a lot of times when I hear these things, the thing I always think about is, man, how did God help you through that? Because one, God has already helped you, but your story, your testimony can help somebody else.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Obviously, in a moment where, you go through these different volcanoes, there's a lot of opportunity to just lay it all before God and just be like, look, there's obviously a reason why you're allowing me to go through these sorts of things. I'm a very firm believer that God doesn't cause, havoc in your life, but he allows it to take its course because there's something bigger, the bigger picture that he wants you to kind of gather from it. And I'll even get very, very real, and very specific with you. One of the tracks on the EP is called Next Time. And it's one of those songs where I actually cried while I was recording it in the booth because the whole song just kind of spills the beans of why I've been in and out of the hospitals and the ERs over the past few years. And, I've been very vague with my fans and people who follow me and support me. I've been very vague with them as to what it's all about, what's been going on. But I've been struggling with chronic pain on my entire whole upper body for the past 2 or 3 years, like day in and day out, from the point I wake up to the point I go to sleep. I'm in just constant physical pain on my upper body. I live off of painkillers at this point. I spent thousands of dollars on tests and prescriptions and hospital visits and chiropractor help, acupuncture, you name it. I've tried it and got no results, zero progress, zero answers. None of the medications give me any kind of permanent or long lasting relief. And so it's like I think anyone who's gone through anything like that can relate to. It's like there are certain days where I don't even want to get out of bed. I honestly just want to curse at God all day and just be bitter and express frustration and anger. But then there are certain days where it's like I get very encouraged by people who are aware of the situation, my close friends and my mentors and my family. And they just remind me of, like, there is a purpose behind this. Like, just trust God. You can, keep moving. Don't let this keep weighing you down. Just trust God through this process. And it really challenged me. Like, the only way I'm going to be able to get through this, honestly, is I'm going to have to dig into the Word. I'm going to have to pray. I'm going to have to get on my knees. I'm going to have to really stay close with fellowship and with community, or else I will go insane. I will go crazy, and I will lose my mind. And I will probably, honestly, let this situation get the better of me with my physical ailments. And that's just it's a very real thing that I'm going through. I know a lot of people are experiencing that, and there are certain times, every so often, when God brings someone to down my path who expresses that they're dealing with physical ailments, and that allows me to open up and share my story with them. But it was one of those things where I had never talked about it with my fan base, and I was very convicted by a conversation I had with Cannon. He's become one of my best friends here in Atlanta. I hang out with him pretty frequently. And I was at his house one day, and he was very real with me. We were having a conversation about artistry and just writing new stuff and new projects that were coming out. And he was like, bro, he's like, you're a really dope artist. I love what you do. I love when you do your love songs. You're obviously really good at that stuff. He's like, but there's a whole other side of you that you don't let people know about at all. You don't talk about it all. And obviously, him with what he dealt with his fall, it's just, he understands physical pain and, chronic pain at this point, and just having to go through that and walk through that process. And he just challenged me. He said, I really want to encourage you and challenge you to talk about that on this next project that you're going to drop. He's like, do a whole song just about that and just kind of spill it all to your fans and let them know, like, this is what I deal with. Be vulnerable with them, be transparent with them, let them know, hey, I'm a man, I'm human, I have my weakness, and this particular weakness happens to deal with actual physical weakness and physical pain. So it's just one of those things where it was a hard thing to kind of let go of and talk about finally and kind of bring it all out to the open, but I'm really happy that I did, because it's one of those songs where it was a good challenge to kind of make it through that. But anyway, God really strengthened me through that process of writing that song, and I really grew closer with God in that process, and it's been good. I think one other thing I'll even say to that is it's challenged me to kind of be open to exploring God in different ways, and like what I mean by that is I've been going through a spiritual transition over the past 6 months in a good way, but it's definitely a change. It's one of those things where there was one day I was sitting down and I was kind of, I was actually at a mountaintop, so I'd just been hiking that day. But I was sitting down, just kind of looking out into the sky and the scenery in front of me, and I was just thinking to myself that all the different, hot topics in Christianity, like homosexuality and abortion and premarital sex and drugs and alcohol, all the cursing, all the different stuff that we, that we want to always debate about with other people and with ourselves. And in each one of those hot topics, I asked myself, well, how do I feel about that? And immediately, my immediate answer was like, oh, that's wrong. It's shameful. It's sinful. God doesn't approve of that. But then I had to kind of digest that some more. I'm like, okay, well, why is that my answer? Is that because I have been personally convicted by God about those things? Or is it because so-and-so who said a really good sermon 6 years ago said something about homosexuality, and I embraced his sermon as my absolute truth. I embraced his convictions as my convictions, his faith and his opinion as my faith and my opinion. And I never really even brought it before God. I never prayed about it. I never thought about it. I never asked God what he wants to tell me directly about it. But I just embraced it without hesitation. And I realized that that's been the majority of my walk with God, has been other people's convictions have become my convictions, and other people's great word in the sermon have become my absolute truth. And that scared the crap out of me, man. I'll be really honest with you. It made me think, like, wow, I feel like my whole relationship with God over this past 7 years has been completely fake and not genuine at all. I think there's been elements of it that have certainly been real and tangible and very powerful. But overall, it's like I realized the extent of how many people have had a say in my life and what I believe. And it's like, what do I actually believe for myself? Like, what has God actually spoken to me personally about this? Whether it's, through his word or through his own voice. What has he spoken to me about this? And I didn't really have an answer, and it really scared the crap out of me, man. So it just challenged me to really, really dig in very, very heavily into the word and not be so quick to just take a pastor's sermon and embrace it as my own absolute truth and my own, infallible word. It was one of those things where now when I go to church, it's like I'll listen to the sermon, I'll soak it in. But if the pastor says some kind of really profound sentence that's like, it's very just one of those things that you would normally tweet out or something like that, so I'm not going to take it and just run with it. I'm gonna write it down and be like, okay, that's dope. I like that, but let me take that home. Let me pray about that. Let me kind of talk to God about that. See what God wants to communicate to me about that. And again, it's a change. It's a transition. So I'm exploring things. I'm open to certain things that I wasn't open to before because I feel like I was putting myself in a box before this whole transitional phase because of what I've been taught or how I was raised in a Christian house. Like there's certain things I'm just not allowed to do. I'm a Christian or because God doesn't approve. But I've never actually felt God approving, disapproving. I never felt the conviction of the Holy Spirit in certain things. So I'm open to exploring certain things now that I wasn't really open to before. And again, I think there's obviously a certain hand of Christians who aren't going to agree with that. And I have no issue talking to them about that. And I totally respect their opinion and their convictions. But it's just where I'm at. And I still absolutely, absolutely adore God. And I want to grow deeper with Him. But it's just a different landscape of looking at the process of walking with God versus how I was walking with Him before. So that's been this whole past year, man. It's just been a very interesting year, very transitional change, a lot of changes and stuff. But I think it's been good. It's been healthy. I think growth and change is great. It's uncomfortable, but it's good.
Man, that's encouraging, man. I know you mentioned before you and J. Paul live together, man.
Yes, sir.
How musical is y'all's crib, dog?
Oh, it's crazy, bro. We always, he'll be walking around the house, always just singing something. He's from Dallas, so he's like super southern churchy, and he's always singing like some super heavy vibrato stuff that they would sing in like the church choir. But I love that dude, man. He's become one of my best friends, and I love that guy to death. But yeah, we're always working in the studio. I got my studio in my room, and so we're always working on stuff. He's always like, "Hey, can I get in the studio tonight and work on something?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, that's no problem. Like, I got time, so we can get it in." So it's just been really cool to work with him in that capacity. And of course, he's a very firm believer in my talents, and he's always trying to show me love and support me. So he's got very tight connections with a lot of bigger people who have platforms that I don't have and that he doesn't even have himself. And, he's always talking to them about me. So I really appreciate him for that, and the opportunities that have come from that have been really cool. So it's just, it's been an awesome experience getting to know him some more, and just doing life with him on a day-to-day basis. And we go through our struggles together. He's very he's there with me through my physical pains and all the stuff that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I'm there with him during his transitions and his changes, his struggles, whatever it is that we're both dealing with, we're there for each other. So I love it. It's awesome.
Man, that's encouraging, brother. That's encouraging. Man, TJ, man, I'm so glad we were able to share, man, and man, I believe your what you shared here from your last 6 months to dealing with the physical pain, your spirit. Man, I believe someone is going to be truly blessed by this, brother.
I hope so, man. For real, I really do.
Yeah, man. I believe it, man. I believe it, bro. Well, TJ, man, I just want to encourage everybody to get your new project. Your website and everything, man. Just tell people how to connect with you, brother. Especially being an indie artist, you know what I'm saying? Make sure they connect with you.
Website. Bro. Absolutely, man. The website is under construction, so if you want to connect with me, just do it through basic social media. Twitter and Instagram are both at TJ Pompeo, and Pompeo is spelled Pompeo. And then Facebook is facebook.com/TJ Pompeo Music. So yeah, definitely get at me on there. Pompeo is it's on iTunes now, and Amazon, and Google Play, Spotify. So be sure to get it, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. And that album title is actually spelled Pompeio. So really, go look at that, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Absolutely, man. TJ, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, wait up. Take care, bro.
On the Wait Radio Show. On the Wait Radio. On the Wait Radio Show, where it's much more than music, it's ministry.